All right, good morning. Welcome to the podcast. Josh,
Good morning.
we have a very special guest today, Mr. Sommidah Ayuba, who is a right activist. Welcome to the podcast. A lot is happening in Nigeria, and as concerned Nigerians, we are here to talk about it. People are out there protesting. People have protested. The president has said something barely 24 hours now. How do you react to all these things that are happening?
Okay, good morning once again. I remain right activist Ayuba Sommidah.
What is the difference between human right and right activist?
Is just a name. And human rights, they are of diversity. There are people working with government in the Human Rights Commission,
Okay.
and there are organizations that are human rights based organizations.
Okay.
And these ones, they are mostly the one referred to as right activists because they are active in terms of their conduct and activity. While the ones with the government, they are less active. That's how we see them. Anyway,
Okay.
Yeah, me, I was thinking that right activity has to do with everybody, including animals and what have you.
no, it's not like that. We have people that work on that specially, people that protect animal rights.
Okay.
But in terms of right activists, we're talking about protecting human rights.
All right. So now back to our question.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarity.
All right. If I get your question, you're talking about the protest, the nationwide protest in
Yeah.
Nigeria.
Yeah.
So actually, before I can say anything in regard to that, a lot have happened before we reach to this point.
Yes.
And I believe it is very obvious to almost everyone that since independent or since after return of democracy,
99.
yes, that is 1999 when Obasanjo came in as the elected president. There are other things that the masses or the population of the country have not been pleased with regarding the leadership of the country. And if you can recall back in the 70s, 60s, there were reasons that lead to a lot of coup where the military come in and took over power. This same reason that make them to do so, since after the 1999 election, the same reasons are still there in the government and they keep becoming bigger and bigger every day, every administration. So that is to say the need for the protest I'm talking about. The government, the people have not been satisfied with the leadership, and every now and then is promise, but no any promise of politicians have ever come to fulfillment in this country that satisfy the people or the masses. And as these keep becoming more and more, people are no longer satisfied, and it's like they have almost been pushed to war, that they have to do something. And you can see, more especially the last administration before this one,
Buhari administration.
Buhari administration, it was a kind of, in fact, we are thrown into a state where we are very, very uncomfortable. They try all they could to see that we master it, but actually, you can't master suffering, left to me. No matter how the Hausa proverb that they used to normally say, we are called a magani badadi. You can't, there's no way. You are suffering and you think you will continue suffering and you master it and it will do you nothing. That is our experience in the last administration. But coming to this one, just from the first day of inauguration, in fact, I can say barely a minute or 2 minutes into being the president of the country, the president made a speech, and that speech was a shock to every living human being in this country that heard about the speech or that know what the speech means. Specifically, the issue of the fuel subsidy removal. That speech or that particular context or statement throw the country into a state of psychological, economical, and social frustration, where nobody was okay with this. In fact, if you have to go on statistics, I don't think you can hardly have up to 10% of the population that were okay with this statement, except maybe for those that seems to be very close to him and they think they can find their way out whatever happened. So that statement is the origin of why people continue to see that something needs to be done in form of change to the entire leadership. So that is about how we are here, and that even come to or lead to the protest. And since then, a lot of other things has been happening. Apart from the fuel subsidy removal. And there is no any effective policy implementation put in place by the government that will justify their reason for the subsidy removal. In fact, all explanation that they can make, I have this confidence that if I'm to debate with anybody in this country pertaining the fuel subsidy removal, I can beat the person hands down if he's in support of the fuel subsidy removal.
But one will say all the major presidential candidates in the last election talked about subsidy removal, and it is only justifiable that they did. So how do you respond to that?
Okay, you see, that's the reason why I take all our politicians to be the same. Though I've not been in their shoe, I will have to speak from where I am, from my own particular thought and thinking. You see, both the presidential candidate, of course, they are set to removing fuel subsidy when they have been elected. And all their reason given, I don't think there's anyone justifiable. I can remember during President Goodluck administration, the former Minister of Finance, that is Ngozi Ikonjo-Iweala, there was an assignment given to her with a team pertaining this fuel subsidy removal. What they understood is that what Nigerian government paid subsidy for, or the fuel Nigerian paid subsidy for, is over what we consume. By implication, these oil marketers, they go through the Nigerian government and buy subsidized fuel and export it to other countries. That her team were able to successfully work and come with a total quantity of fuel we need to consume in this country. And they stick that they are going to pay subsidy for only this
quantity.
Yes, for only this quantity. And that doesn't go well with the fuel marketers. They threatening her in all means by even kidnapping her mother. She was the one. This is a statement that is public. She said it and it's public. You can Google it and you can see this statement. Her mother was kidnapped, that she want to play with them, she want to restrict them, she want to do this and that. She must pay them their money. So you see, you can just imagine if a government can be able to trace this, that this is where the problem is, then you can simply come to the conclusion that fuel subsidy removal is not the case, it's not the solution. Because since you can be able to come out with the total number of fuel that is needed to be consumed in the country, and if you are to pay only to subsidize only for the one consumed in this country, it will not be a burden. It will never be a burden to the government. And the masses will enjoy and they will be happy. And which is the dream, or which is supposed to be the dream or vision of every leadership, to please the masses. But if you say, because this fuel, the fuel being subsidized and sold to the marketers is more than 80% of it is taken and is being exported to other countries. If you cannot stop that, just to stop that, to make sure that since you have got it right, that yes, this is the problem. We can subsidize for this and sold it to this country, and anybody buying, then let him buy with the normal price. You can come to that understanding, but you cannot be able to implement it because of some few individuals in the country that you think they can threaten you. Then what are you? I don't think you are a leader enough. Because if you can emerge in that position as a leader, I think this is one of the sacrifices you need to make in order to please your people, in order to make your leadership right. It's only by doing that that the people will know that yes, you are for them. But how can you say you remove you cannot be able to achieve that or to stop the exportation of fuel being subsidized by Nigerian government, but you want to put the whole masses into buying fuel without subsidy, and you think we can believe you that there's something you will do with that money generated that will be of use to the masses? I don't think it's possible.
Well, all these claims and analysis, right?
Yes.
I think they're on track. But looking at Nigerians, the trends for leadership in Nigeria, power is being negotiated. Power is being reshuffled based on consensus and moguls and the rest. There are people behind the scene that are negotiating this power. And when you look at the oil marketers, the moguls in the business, they are these same people that negotiate power. So when the new governments are there, they have to act according to this set of people's demands, which led to the issue of the government not bringing out rules and regulations that might hamper their business, their partners, and their consensus people. So this is a big problem. If Nigeria or Africa will be able to solve that issue of power being negotiated, let the right person be put into power. Because when these people are there, they have to please their people.
So how do we get the right people in power?
That's very tough.
You see, Nigeria is not the first country to practice democracy. Even in Africa, there are other places that are practicing democracy system of government, and they are doing better off than us when it comes to leadership.
Okay.
If you go outside other countries, other developed countries, that is in Europe and other continent, there are still countries that are practicing democracy, but it's not like that. And let me be sincere to you. You see, this Mr. President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, one of the reasons why people voted for him is because people think or thought that he has this capacity. He has the capital that he cannot be easily influenced or manipulated. And about this mogul you are talking about, Tinubu, I think if there are anything called mogul in this country, I think he must be one of the strongest. So the hope of the people was, okay, since this guy will be able to sponsor his campaign with his personal money, without begging or without seeking for support from anywhere, then he can be able to take decision that will favor the masses than the moguls, because the moguls will only come after you if they have contributed in one way or the other significantly to your campaign.
Well, obviously, it's not looking like that. It's looking like he's trying to please some set of people.
So, if he's trying to please some set of people, I think he also got it wrong, because the country will not be pleased with it and they will try to resist in all form. And that's exactly what, of course, what lead to the reason for this protest.
Yeah, okay. Looking at the presidential speech yesterday, there are a lot of things he said, but the Protestants are not giving in. They are not believing in what he said, and they are not trying to stop the protest. When I check X this morning, there is a certain hashtag that is trending, Occupy Abuja, which we are in day 5 now, and the plan is for the Protestants to occupy Eagle Square with a lot of people, with demonstrations and co. So what do you think about the presidential speech and the major point you've spoken about with regards to the protest?
Okay, you see, as far as I'm concerned, his speech is just a norms. It's a kind of speech we have been hearing. No, there is no any impact or no any effect that this statement will render regard to the protest.
Okay.
Because in one of his statements, in the statement he made, there's a place that he was referring, he was a kind of putting blame to opposition, and it's like he was more his concentration was more on the protest, not on the reason for the protest. And he has not come with anything that will be a solution to the protest. So you see, me, I've said it. I know it's very difficult for a developing countries like Nigeria to participate in or to carry out a protest without any form of violence or destruction of property. I know that one is not going to be very easy. It's very, very difficult, in fact. And you see, all the president stated in his statement, he is either blaming the violence or destruction of property, trying to let people know that this destruction will cause us, trying to blame opposition, trying to, me, there's a sentence I read like a kind of threat to the Protestants. So, you see, in fact, this is statement to some reasonable Nigerians who ginger them to protest the more, because there's no any substance out of the statement that is a solution to the problem for the protest. And before you even come to that, you see, this protest we are all talking about, what is protest? I know the first day of this protest, it happened in almost all the 36 states of the country, including the federal capital.
Okay.
And you can see how it goes in almost every state. The protest is a kind one that has never happened. In fact, first of its kind in history of Nigeria, that a civil action will kickstart and all the states will participate in it.
Yeah.
It's the first of its kind. And the only difference we may have, not even first of its kind with that cut across religion and region.
Yeah.
That was very important, that 1st August. And many right-thinking people in this country, I know they were very pleased with that outcome for that very day. You observe now that the protest is more happening now in some more developed and educated states than others. And like the north, most states in the north are backing out of the protest, because some states in the north, there was vandalization, there was destruction, and even killing of people. And Why is because they lack organizers in their own state. Organizers, I mean people that will guide them. This is what protest is, and this is how we are going to do it.
Yeah.
That
How to
was
go
why
about it.
when I was discussing with some people, I tell them when there is protest, you can't say no to protest. You can only know what is protest and say this is how protest is supposed to be done. If you say no to protest, simply you are saying there is no reason for protest. But in the case of Nigeria, the reason is very obvious that even a baby, I know, can testify to that. But you can imagine some matured people, educated, that claim they have passed through education, they will be telling you no to protest. Tell them, educate people about this protest. Leaving them without being educated about the protest, that is what will make them to go and do something contrary.
Yeah.
So that is exactly what we lack. That is exactly what we lack in the north, that even resulted to violence in some places. So that is just that. But protests, as usual, is something that has been happening. And people should also get it right that this protest, there is no any government that will be in support of protests, because it is against the government and it is because against their wrong. So don't think that there will ever be a government that will support protests. That is that.
Protests will always stain a government white.
Yes.
To stain their white. So no government will like their masses to protest against them. Well, looking at the trends for Protestants across the 36 states in Nigeria, most people in the southeast region, their body language towards the process is not as much as the body language of people in the north and people in the south.
Yeah, we have seen some of
Southwest.
their leaders coming out to say Igbo people should not protest.
Yeah, there was even a statement that is instructing Igbo people to sit at home for the next 1 month, starting from, I think, August. I can't remember the date, but they are to total shutdown for 1 month.
That
for
is their
states in the
own.
eastern.
That is their own form of protest. Or
Yeah,
what?
I don't know. It's a statement coming from Biafra Republic. A total shutdown, 1 month total shutdown.
That is not their form of protest. That is them being against the protest.
They are against the protest.
Yes.
Okay. To me, I can say, normally a genuine protest has reasons. And the reasons must be either people are not happy with the government policy, or economic hardship in the country, or civil unrest in the country, or anything that has to be internal that affect the people in general. But actually, it is very unfortunate that in Nigeria, almost everything take a political dimension. And for Igbos to say they are not participating in the protest or they are against the protest, I think they have their own regional interests. They may have their own regional interests. It can't just be like that, because we are all together in the country and we are suffering. The hardship is all over. There is no any place that you can say it is a safe haven in terms of hardship in the country. So I suspect they must have their own regional interests to why they are saying no to the protests. But normally protests have a form. Some is for people to come out carrying placard and other things that is expressing their disapproval or disagreement with the policy of the government or action of the government. And some people, they can decide to sit at home as a protest. Some people, they can start to gather in one place as a protest. They will gather and have a song to be singing or have something to be saying.
You chant.
Yes, chanting. So there are many forms of protest. That's why I was thinking maybe they are sitting at home. That's their own form of protest. But if it is against the protest, then definitely it must have a regional connotation. Simple.
So, but what's the way forward? If you were the president, what would you do?
Wow.
What would you do to respond to people? People
You see,
have complained bitterly.
that is why, if you know what leadership is and what genuine leadership is, then anything you have to do as a leader that will make you qualify you as a leader is sacrifice for your people, for the people you are leading, for your followers. You have to make sacrifice. Okay, maybe this is exactly what I want to do, but these people don't understand it that way. Then why shouldn't I sacrifice my own idea or my own interest for their own? I always say it's very technical and it's very logical. If you are a leader, you may have your own idea or your own view pertaining an issue. So what you need to do is don't compare people on your own idea or your own policy. Allow them to view out theirs. And if it is possible, allow them to say their own. And after they have said their own, even if your own happen to be the right one, start with their own. Start implementing their own. When it fails, then automatically you can have the room to bring in your own idea. But you stick to your own idea that this is how these things will be done. If fuel subsidy is not removed, then Nigeria will not get better. We can't generate money. If you generate the money, how justifiable can you be in utilizing the money that will benefit the masses? We are aware that fertilizers have been distributed to state. A lot of funds have been distributed to state just to ease hardship. And I believe all this money is being generated from the fuel subsidy removal. But how is this thing being effective? Or how is this thing reaching the masses? You see, there are cases in so many places. I know of I saw it on media about how many trailers of fertilizers meant for, I think, Katsinako or Sokoto, one of these two states. They found these trailers with these fertilizers in Kano. The DSS were the ones that were able to discover this.
Wow.
So you can imagine. And this is meant for the state just to ease hardship for the people. But the governor have diverted it to another place. And that is just the one we know. I know we have plenty of these kind of cases. Bama akan fertilizer, but there are other things that happen to be provision from the federal government. But it can't reach the people. But we
They're being
believe
hijacked.
It can be hijacked. But this fuel subsidy, once fuel is subsidized, it can reach everywhere. It can reach everywhere. It's not something that you don't need even to give the government the money to go and share. Just it will reach everywhere naturally.
And it's going to affect
take
a lot
effect.
of things.
Yes. So as a leader, if you really want to do something, you have to sacrifice your own interest for the interest of the people. When their own fail, then you see you from there your own will just come in natural. They must have to allow you with your own idea to put in place. So for the president, I think he needs to see it. He needs to see the reason why people are insisting that the fuel subsidy removal should be reversed.
Do you think that the removal of fuel subsidies is practical? Can it be done like right now in the current economic situation of Nigeria?
Yes,
that we don't have any generation where we can generate money apart from the fuel subsidy.
Okay. You see, with fuel subsidy, we are still borrowing money.
But Nigeria has already reached the threshold of their borrowing for this year.
Okay,
alone.
for this year.
Yeah.
And we borrow money after the fuel subsidy removal. Do you know that?
So
we borrow money.
It's looking like
excuse me.
it's not practical to remove the fuel subsidy since we have already reached the threshold of our borrowing?
My friend, it is practical. You see, me, as far as I'm concerned, is a matter of the president to say, I have revised the fuel subsidy removal policy and make order for fuel to be sold to the people with subsidized price. And the economic implication, that's what you are talking about, right?
Yeah.
How possible could this be economically for the country? Okay. I think now we are talking about next year budget because this one is already done. And I think all the fund we need to run this year budget is already being provided. Therefore, we don't need something for this year now that will even say, if we don't borrow money this year and we remove fuel subsidy, it will be a problem. I don't think it will be a problem. Even if it is for this month, September, October, November, December, this remaining 4 months of the year, if the fuel subsidy can be removed, then whatever it is, we can be able to know within this 4 months, we can suggest other alternative. You see, what we are saying simply, when we are agitating for reversal of the fuel subsidy policy or removal, we are not saying it is bad for government to generate money to do other projects. But what we are saying is that there is no any channel that you can reach out to the masses.
It's very effective.
That is very effective and justifiable than this fuel subsidy. Because, just as I was saying earlier, the government, let me tell you, if you know the amount of money that government has been spending since the day they removed this fuel subsidy, you will be surprised. The money they have generated and the money they have been distributing, you will be shocked. But I'm telling you, it's Nigeria. This thing can never reach. In fact, in 100%, I don't think 5% can reach the masses. That is just simple. So how do you want people to be convinced, or how do you want people to agree with you that, yes, you have any reason to remove fuel subsidy? So there is a way out.
Yeah, I think one can argue that if the federal government will cut down the cost of governance, it is possible to actually bring back subsidy. Because when you look at the spending habits of the federal government, mostly it goes to the cost of governance.
Yes.
If they can reduce their salaries, their allowances, and not allow government agencies or appointees to travel out for treatments and other stuff, I think it will reduce the cost of governance. And when subsidy is being brought back, it will be effective.
And that is exactly the sacrifice I was talking about.
But apart from that, it is not practical to bring back subsidy because obviously Nigerians are not generating money from anywhere apart from that for subsidy.
That is it now. Look at the lawmakers, the Senate and the House of Representatives. They are also part of the government spending this.
Yeah.
And their cost of expenditure, as they are there, if you are told how much they...
I heard they have an allowance of 25 million.
Yes.
Sitting allowance?
I don't know.
Their allowance is choke. They have series of allowances.
It's travel allowance.
And they are not ready to sacrifice. They are not ready. I think both the executive, the legislative, and so the judiciary, they are not ready to sacrifice. When it comes to something that has to do with their finance, they are not ready to sacrifice. Yes. But if they can sacrifice, I agree with you that...
But a couple of them have come out and say they want to cut their salary by 50%.
By 50%. Their salary is not what we're after.
Allowance.
Maybe that included.
Because the salary, we all know how government is being run when it comes to entitlement. It's better you say your entitlement than to say me your salary. Because your entitlement is your total take home, what you are entitled for.
Yeah.
And your salary will just be maybe 10% or 20% of your total entitlement. So if you say you have cut your salary by 50%, then I don't think that has any effect to your finance.
Apart from the people in government, there are also retirees, like ex head of states, ex governors. They are also getting money from the government as well.
Yes, of course they
And
do.
it's also
They should sacrifice their own.
Yes, they
Yes,
should
of course.
sacrifice if they are patriotic.
Yeah.
If they are patriotic, they need to. Unless if they no longer send how the country goes.
Yeah, because a former senator's take home is bigger than what a civil servant take at the end of the day.
Okay, you just look at the issue of the minimum wage that have been in media for long, and finally the president said he has signed into law that no civil servant should be paid less than 70,000. So to me, I was just laughing at the union, whether they agree or they did not agree. But as far as I'm concerned, minimum wage is not even one of the issue or one of the problem of this country. There are a lot of areas that if handled properly, then you have no cause to worry. We know how cost of living was in the last 20 years in this country, where 100,000 of 20 years back is more than 2 million of now. When in terms of value,
Sadly.
and that's very sadly. So how do you now tell me that you want to give me 70,000? If you give me 70,000 and I went to the market with 70,000, I can't buy something that will sustain my family for a week. Just when you talk about feeding, not about accommodation and other bills. So I don't think minimum wage is even the case. So they should just forget about minimum wage. I'm not interested in that one, actually. Because
Minimum wage is a scam.
it's a scam. Just put it simply that way.
Looking at Nigerians' workforce, between civil servants and the private sectors, who have more workforce between the private sectors and civil servants or public sector?
No, I think the private sector has more.
And then minimum wage do not cut across private sectors.
That is you are now just talking about the general public sector, because minimum wage, if the president say he has signed minimum wage,
It's for public sector.
not even for federal, every state governor decides when and how to implement it. It has never been in the country whereby governors were forced to implement it. It has never been anywhere in this country like that. The federal government, they will benefit, but some state, that should be after years. If the governor is being pressurized.
At 70, they might end up giving 40 or 35.
Yes, of course. So
Wow.
how effective would that be?
It's actually a scam.
It's a scam.
A
Of
scam.
course, a scam. That's why you see minimum wage. This country is just a country where a lot of things are going wrong. A lot of things. I mean, a lot of things. And the sad thing is that we have all the potentials to live a better life. We have all the potentials naturally and artificially. We have. Talking about the manpower, talking about the natural resources, we have. I always say this, the leadership is the issue. The leadership is the issue. Gradually, you see, people look up to a leader, isn't it? You find out where millions of people are looking up to a leader. They are being inspired by his doings. by his way of life, then you can't expect them to do otherwise if they are in his position. There was time people would keep saying, the change begin with me, change begin with me. Have that ever make any impact? Change will begin with me, but how impactful will that be? Who is looking up to me that change will begin with me and it will make impact? Yeah? Who is looking up to me?
Wow.
But if the leader, you know what is government? Government has everything. They have the authority, they have the resources, they have everything to implement whatever they want to. That is why if the government fail, everybody, if people fail, who feel it? But if government fail, the people feel it.
Yeah. Fact.
At your home, if you fail your family, is from there you. But if the government fail, every family will be affected. So that is why there is need for the government to think twice and know exactly what we need to do. When I was talking about natural resources, there are a lot of things that if the government can put attention to, I'm telling you, Nigeria will get better. But they are not willing.
They are over-dependent on oil.
Over-dependent on oil. Some of the natural resources, of recent I have just a glance at what is happening when it comes to natural resources, and I'm shocked to know that this government can be sustained on natural resources with the exception of oil.
Yeah.
Of anything crude oil can be sustained. The country can be sustained and it would be better. But how do this come in? How will this be achievable? It's the government. You discover there is natural resources or mineral resources, natural resources have been discovered somewhere. All this gold, all this iron, all this, plenty of them.
Rubies.
But this is a resources that can be able to better the life of the whole people in the area. But just 2 or 3 people will come and they will be the only people to be benefiting. In the name of government, in the name of, what do you call it? Investors or whatever. They'll be the only one, they will be extracting that resources to their own benefit. And the government has power, has authority to come into that, to see how the people will be beneficiaries. So there are a lot of things that the government needs to do.
Wow. Talking about natural resources, the natural resources in Nigeria, the deposit in Nigeria, looking at our geographical location, we have one of the finest natural resources. Even the crude oil is one of the best in the world. Then coming down to iron, limestones, and the rest, we have one of the best in the world. But the government are not using that. They are over-dependent on crude oil. But I don't know why. And even in the core northern states, there is a monopoly in that market of natural resources. But if the government can actually invest in that, there are a lot of investors that come in from China, Asia, and Europe. They wanted to invest in natural resources in Nigeria, but the government were not welcoming them. They prefer to be taken through the back door, which is why we are here. And I think the government needs to broaden their scope so that we can have other alternatives to crude oil.
Yes. And you see, that's why I'm telling you, in fact, almost everything, wherever angle you are taking it from, the blame will say first start with the leadership. I was shocked to have an insight that what is happening in Zamfara, the killing in Zamfara, the destruction in Zamfara, is because of the natural resources discovered there.
Yeah.
Once something precious, valuable is discovered in your community, you have no peace. So you just imagine. instead of government to come and take control, absolute control, and extract that will benefit everybody in the country, but they will allow personal individuals, people in authority, people in position, to come and be fighting over that resources, and at the detriment of the masses, people will just be killed. You will no longer have peace once such resources is discovered in your community. So it's very sad.
In Zamfara, there are villages where once it's 6, everybody evacuates. They sleep at neighboring villages because bandits take over.
And these bandits, they are the masses. They are being hired to come and work for these elites, for these leaders, for these politicians, for these business people, just to get a peanut. You see, there is a point in time where one will think, if I'm a bandit, you go out, if I can have all I need, I can enjoy my life, stay at home. But people you are working for, they will never have you to have, they will never allow you to have enough that will sustain you without working for them. That is why you end up your whole life working for them. And if you are not lucky, as a result, you will get killed. So that's how I pity the bandits. Because these people you are working for them, they don't want you to leave the job you are doing for them. They want you to continue, just as the normal mentality with capitalists.
Yeah. They'll never give you enough.
Yes.
There is this issue that we were passing throughout this protest. The issue of network being slowed. People are not able to browse the internet effectively. And the Minister of Information, I think, he was puzzled, he was questioned. He's one of the youngest ministers in this cabinet. And his reaction was, there are a lot of, probably people are at home and there are a lot of people online. So that is why we're having network jam. It was like,
for real?
He was trying to explain normal traffic.
So
it's
by implication, what he's saying is that the network energy is not enough that will consume more people or what? Because I think the network providers, they must have known the population that their network can be able to serve.
That's not the real talk.
I
don't
so
think
what he's saying, I think, is just a shallow excuse.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense, actually.
Someone in the comment section was like, this is the problem of the youth. You are a young person and imagine the explanation you are giving.
You are giving.
If we are not, imagine if we are not learned.
Not to agree.
So that is that.
But very quickly now, time it's not on our side. So very quickly before we go, people have come out to protest. Government have reacted. The president has come out to address the people, even though the way he did it, a lot of people are not very, very satisfied with the way he responded to the protests. And we just hope that things will get back to normal and the government will address some of these demands by the people, especially hunger. So very quickly, your final words, Mr. Sommidah, before we go. What is your message to the people, and what is your message to the government?
Okay. To the people first, I think even at this, a message has been passed. Since the protest is all about drawing attention of the government, people expressing their disagreement, their disapproval with government policy, and I'm very sure now the president or the government are very well aware that process has happened, and the message for the process has reached them as well. Only that, one thing with protests, the people, is not something that I express myself and you do nothing about, then I keep quiet.
It goes on.
It goes on. If I can remember, this protest is started for 10 days. And there was also an observation that after the 10 days, if nothing is being done, then tendency of extension is there. So that is to the people. I want them to be very well aware, or I want them to feel a kind of their effort has been achieved by being able to carry on the protest. Protest is being done, and just as I said, I think one step has been taken in regard of the protest from the side of the people. They said they will do protests after they have done it successfully, with violence or without violence. It has been done. So they shouldn't feel discouraged, especially from people saying no to the protest, because everybody saying no to the protest, just as I've said it earlier. Something must be wrong with that person. To me, you can only say this is how you will do the protest than to say no to the protest. Because by saying no to the protest, it means you are saying there is no reason for the protest, and you will be a very big liar. So there is reason for the protest, and protest has been done. So people should not be discouraged. I saw a video where some people that were paid were hired to say no to the protest. I think they were left out in hunger, and they start coming out and make a lot of confession that they hired them to come and say no to the protest, and now they have abandoned them, no food, no anything. So look at a country like Nigeria, this thing is happening. So they were even asking other protestants that if these people come back, will you allow them to join you in the protest?
True confession.
So you see, since when this protest is being started, and I observe the atmosphere in the country, even before 1st August, I know the impact of the protest, the message of the protest has been passed, and definitely it must have effect. So people should not be discouraged. Protest is a right constitutionally that everybody has to exercise. It's not something that somebody will tell you do it or leave it. If it wasn't something important, it couldn't have been in the Constitution. It is very important, that's why it is there in the Constitution. And by exercising it in an orderly way, I think you have only been patriotic. Because if you see things are going wrong in your country and you sit down, you are not patriotic enough.
Yeah.
But by coming out to protest, it's patriotism. And you imagine Tinubu, who is the founder, organizer of protests for several years, and he's in power, and you are telling people not to protest. To me, it's also an insult to Tinubu, because you are telling Tinubu what he was doing, he don't know what he was doing.
What is your message to the government now?
My message to the government is for them to consider all that the protesters have said and to do something effectively.
Some people have said Tinubu should step down. Should he consider it?
No, me, I'm not saying he should step down. He should step down. Because just as I said earlier, it's just a matter of statement. Tinubu make a statement and fuel subsidy was removed. If you can make another statement, fuel subsidy will come back. So I cannot say he doesn't have the capacity. If you have the capacity to remove fuel subsidy, you also have the capacity to bring back fuel subsidy. So if you can do that, That's all.
All right, Josh.
Okay. Message has well been passed, and I believe the government have received the message. And I'm calling on the government to work for the populations. The populations or the populations are not opposition. They are people looking for better life, and they should work towards providing better life for the whole Nigerian population. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. See you guys next time.
All right.
Mm.